This video is sponsored by Wing Technology, your ultimate flight sim hardware solution.
Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing wonderfully well. Today something a little bit different. FA-18C Hornet versus F-16C Viper. No, I'm not become Growling Sidewinder. This is not a cool dogfight, although I must admit that would be a cool thing. We're going to do something a little bit different. You guys, the valued viewers, have asked me several times now, hello Cap, I want to buy either the FA-18C or the F-16. Which should I use? So let's talk you through my response. And we've got a typical response here. Cap, I have a question for you. Can you please compare the Hornet and the Viper? I'm losing my mind guessing what's better, what I want to spend my $80 on, which is a lot of money, especially for some countries where that really does become a lot of money. So we have to get it right. My usual response is, please watch these. I've spent lots of time doing reviews on all of these aircraft. Let's have a look at the links I've shown. 1. DC module buying guide. This sends you to a spreadsheet basically, which you can see here, and shows in a nutshell what all of the different aircraft can do, what they can't do, and their average score down here, as well as the review videos on each of them shown here, and the official price and whatnot, and the actual officialdom. As well as that, we do kind of hour-long reviews for each one, showing absolutely everything to do with the aircraft. What capabilities does it have? What systems does it have? How good are the sound effects? How good are the visuals? How good are the flight modules? How bugged it's been? And on and on and on. Just about everything that I can show being objective and as professional as I can. So that's all there for you. And then this response has come. Yes, I've started with this. I was searching more for a personal opinion on how enjoyable the module is, because on paper they're really similar. So what it's asking for here is not the professional view, which is what these videos are here, is what my personal view of myself and say RC really think. What would we buy if we had the dollars? And I think that's a fair thing to ask, and a very easy one for us to answer. So we need to split these planes into their tasks. The main task of any of these aircraft in DCS world is their function. 1, in air-to-air combat. 2, in air-to-ground combat, at least for modern aircraft like this that are multi-role. Now, air-to-air is a very easy one to answer. I much prefer the Viper air-to-air, mainly because of its kinematics. So that means how good it is in the air in terms of speed, acceleration, turn rate, turn radius, and so on. And if you want to know more about that, really simple to compare them. Load this video up here, and I'll link these videos in the video description you're watching now, and load this one up here. Look in the video descriptions and you'll see I leave timestamps. On each of these videos you can go to the timestamp that says kinematics, and I will show you the results of testing all of the areas that we can test. Climb, roll, turn, acceleration, speed, high, low, and everything else you could possibly want, and you can compare them there. That's kinematics. As well as that, if we go to a professional competition like SATAL, which is the biggest DCS air-to-air competition, and we just look at the Grim Reapers, for instance, all 4 of the Grim Reapers squad flies F-16s. And if we look at the other teams, the most common plane we see now is the F-16, which means it's pretty much better, even though it's less complete. In terms of enjoyment as well as effectiveness in air-to-air, I prefer it. That's much harder for me to quantify in terms of enjoyment. You know, how do you quantify enjoyment? But for me, the flight model is much more fun in terms of air-to-air. For me, the feedback that the sound engine gives you and the vapors and the shaking wings and stuff like that, for me, just better on the F-16 in terms of air-to-air. In terms of actual systems, helmet-mounted display, HUD, stuff like that, to be honest, they're about equal. But again, I just prefer how the F-16 works. Next, air-to-ground. For me, it's the absolute opposite way around. It'll be interesting what RC says. If I'm going to go and bomb something in DCS, I'll pick a Hornet, because for air-to-ground, for me, it's a lot better. And not just in the fact that it has more weapons at the moment, which it does because it came out a year before the F-16. Well, here's an example. Here is the same T-pod shot, or, you know, roughly the same T-pod shot against the same target, at roughly the same altitude, at the same distance, at roughly the same aspect. 1 on a Hornet, 1 on a Viper. They're at the same resolution, these screens, in terms of what we did with our computers, and about the same size. Look how much better this one is than the F-16 one. And that's because the displays on the Hornet are much higher resolution. And that's just one example of why I find the Hornet much easier to use in terms of air-to-ground. As well as that, you know, harm usage, stuff like that, I find it much more intuitive, easy to use. In some ways, not quite as functional as the F-16, because I think they've added some extra functions in the F-16, but still the F-18 is the one I would always go to. And when you, especially, you've got lots of planes and you've got to learn all of these functions and remember all of these functions, having them A, intuitive, B, easy to use is actually a massive bonus. And I think that philosophy works for all of the air-to-ground weapons, the JDAMs, the cruise missile, the anti-ship missiles. I just find it nice and simple and easy to use in the Hornet. Another way for me to prove that is because when I was doing proper teaching, I would always do air-to-ground in the Hornet because it was much easier to teach the student air-to-ground in the Hornet than it was in the F-16. That's just what I found. You may disagree, and there are some great things in the F-16. I actually prefer the Mavericks in the F-16 to the Hornet, but generally, if I was going to go and bomb something and I had to choose these planes, I would take that one. The summary is that if you want to mainly do air-to-air, get the F-16. If you mainly want to do air-to-ground, then use the F-18. Don't forget, obviously, that the F-18 is carrier capable, which is a bonus, and that's as honest as I can be, so it really depends on what you want. I'll just wrap up the show now asking for RC's opinion.
It's hard to choose because, like you said, the F-18 is naval capable. It's got some weapons that the F-16 will never have, including some cruise missiles. I'm torn. I don't know which one I like better.
Well, that's what I said in the end, 50-50, basically,
yeah,
isn't it? So,
I mean, just depends on the mission that I'm going to be doing. It will depend on the aircraft I want. If I have to hit a bunch of ground targets, 30 or 40 miles away, I'm going to take the 18 and use JSOWs or SLAMs. I'm going to do a seed mission. I probably would take the 16 after it gets the pod for doing seed. It'll be much better.
That is as honest and as clear as I can be. I hope that was useful, and see you later.